What's up guys, it's McNulty here. Welcome back to the channel. I hope you guys are all doing well. So today we are venturing back to Monster Island and it looks like they're doing a bit of work on this event. It looks like we've also got some new coins here. So we've got Monster Island coins, which can be used for summons in the Monster Island portal. So that is interesting. I'm not sure why they've decided to make Acid Fire the face of this bountiful sorcery, but that is what we've got. So alongside that, we have another new release, which is the Underwild costumes, and it looks like we've got 3 brand new costumes for the Underwild. And also some big news is that the Untold Tales summon has dropped upon us, and we're seeing a costume for Phorcys. So we've got quite a bit going on in the game again today. We're going to have a look at the new heroes that we've got. I believe that there are about 3 new 5 stars, maybe 2. Yeah, 2 new 5 stars in the Monster Island summon. So we're going to start off with these 2 new heroes. There are no new 4 stars in this portal. But yeah, I mean, that is what it is. We're used to them releasing 5 stars first because obviously they want you to spend all your hard-earned cash on these heroes. So let's start off with Thura. She looks like she is, I think it's Adelaide, the 3-star. Just bear with me one sec. There is a 3-star that it looks like she is definitely somewhat related to. This one, Adelaide. Yes, it was Adelaide. So yeah, Thura looks like she's somehow related to her. So we'll see if her special has anything to do with increasing damage, etc. So she is a holy hero. She is of the ranger class, which gives her the chance to bypass. She is of the plains hunter family. So the bonus is for 2, 3, 4 or 5 heroes, anywhere from 5% up to 20% increased attack stat. Pretty straightforward family bonus for her. And then she gets the passive, which is a special skill damage reduction. So she gets a 10% chance to drop direct damage received from special skills to 1. And she also gets the Hunter's Mark. So basically it's a damage over time skill. When the character casts her special skill, she gives a Hunter's Mark on a random enemy. The target receives 150 damage over 3 turns. If the target already has the effect, the duration gets refreshed and the damage is increased by 150, up to 1500 damage in total. It's not a huge amount of damage. It does sound like it can get up to 1500, but I have never ever seen that happen in practice. It is quite a useful effect, but you can think of it in the same way as you do like the power gems with the super elemental heroes or the underwild gems with the underwild heroes. That's the kind of thing that happens with that Hunter's Mark to a single hero. And then moving on, let's have a look at Thura's stats with the max power off. She's running a team power of 1054. So we've got 1100 attack, 1001 defense, and 1880 on the health. So very respectable stats for this one. And her special skill is called Guiding Arrow. And she's running at fast speed. So at fast speed, she's going to be dealing 355% damage to the target and nearby. The more health the enemy has, the more damage they'll receive, up to 435%. That's a very, very decent hit running at fast speed. The caster and nearby allies then bypass defensive buffs with their attacks for 3 turns. It says here defensive buffs include counterattacks, and the caster and nearby allies' special skills deal an additional 80% damage for 3 turns. So she is not actually really increasing that much. She's not exactly the same as her little cousin, but she is giving an increase of 80% damage to hers and the caster and nearby allies' special skills for the following 3 turns. So that is pretty useful. I would definitely put her next to a couple of other hitters so you can take advantage of that. But the damage hit, I like the fact that it's depending on the health that the enemy has. And the more health they have, the more damage they'll receive. That basically, to me, that means that the 355 is the absolute bare minimum. And if you are dealing that damage, you're going to be killing some guys, because that is, if that's the minimum, then they obviously don't have too much health. So yeah, a really, really good kind of straightforward hit 3 hero. The bypass of counterattacks is very good as well. And of course, like I've mentioned, the increased special skill damage is really good as well. Where do I think that she'll be best used? I think this is definitely an attacking hero. I would say that she kind of, I was going to say she opens herself up to some counters, but I mean, counterattack, things like that are going to reduce the damage. She's going to bypass those. So actually, she'd probably make a pretty good defensive hero as well. I'd say she screams out to me that she would want to be on the wing somewhere, but she'll definitely make a good part of an attacking team as well. So she's a pretty decent all-rounder, lots of damage, fantastic skill. Increasing the special skill damage is really good. So yeah, I would say she's definitely a top class hero. If you do manage to grab her, massive congratulations. I would go ahead and level this one right away. Excellent hero to start off with. Now moving on to our second hero in this portal, it is a Dubhan, I think, with that little cap on the A. I think you're supposed to say Han, Dubhan. So he is a dark hero. He is of the Paladin class, and he is also of the Plains Hunter family. So we've been over that bonus already. It's an increase on their attack stat. The passive, I believe, will be the same. So he has that 10% chance to drop direct damage to 1. And the Hunter's Mark is the same as well. So again, we won't go over that in detail. Now, moving on to stats for him, 1,052. So slightly less on the team power, but still very, very good. And you can see here, looking over his stats, he's got over 1,000 on the attack and defense. And then 2,000 on the health. So he is going to stick around and take a few hits. That's a huge HP stat for him. His special skill, it's Thundering Strike, and he's dealing 300% damage to the target. If the target had more than 50% health before they received damage, he targets another enemy who had over 50% health before receiving damage from the special skill. If none of the enemies had 50% health, targets a random enemy. The damage is increased on each consecutive hit. Okay, that's interesting. And each enemy can only be hit once. All hit enemies then receive 339 bleed damage over 3 turns, and the caster and nearby allies absorb 30% of dealt bleed damage as health. Wow! This is a pretty cool special. It's kind of the first time that we've ever seen this mechanic. I do quite like it. So basically, he's dealing damage to a single target. Obviously, you want to target somebody who's got more than 50% health, and then that attack is going to move on to another enemy who had over 50% health. Obviously, if it gets to an enemy who had less than 50% health, it stops. But the biggest thing about this special is that special skill increases the damage on each consecutive hit. So again, 300% damage is the lowest possible hit from this guy. If you do happen to just hit for 300% damage at average speed, that's really a bit of a negative, because 300% damage in this day and age for an average speed hero is just not going to cut the mustard. So I would be interested to see how much that actually increases on each consecutive hit. But if it's the same as the decrease, I think the decrease on consecutive hits is about 50% on the damage. Then that, if it's increasing by 50% and you could potentially be hitting a whole team, this guy could be pretty awesome. It remains to be seen, though. It remains to be seen, but I do really like that. The other part of his special that I really like is not just the bleed damage, but the fact that the caster and nearby absorb 30% of the dealt bleed damage as health. So you know how I feel about hitters that heal, or hitter healers, whatever you want to call them. I think that they are some of the most versatile and most useful heroes in the game. There's also very few counters for bleed damage, so I do kind of like that as well. And I believe if we do increase this, so if we hit max power, if we were to increase the limit breaks, add limit breaks and emblems to this guy, we're going to be able to increase the bleed damage, because that scales off of his attack, to 498 bleed damage over 3 turns. It's not the hugest amount, so I don't think you're going to get a humongous heal out of this guy. But you are still going to get some extra effect. So as far as a rating or a grading for this guy, I would say I'll put him in like an A+ category. He's not quite S tier, I don't think. But yeah, I could be proven wrong. I mean, Lemonwood is definitely making the rounds, and I wasn't sure about him to start off with. So Dubhan seems like a pretty fantastic hero. So again, congrats if you do manage to grab this guy. So out of this portal, the 2 brand new 5 stars, I'm thinking I would definitely rather have Thura. I think she's the face of this portal. But neither of them do I think are quite as overpowered as some of the other heroes that we've seen released quite recently. And they're featured alongside Hurricane. I mean, just look at the difference here. I mean, team power, 895 versus 1054. I mean, whoa, that is just a humongous difference in terms of the power. And Hurricane's not that old of a hero, just by the way. So yeah, these guys are pretty fantastic. Just in case I didn't mention it, which I don't think I did, Thura also gets the attack up ether talent, so that will add on to the passive, to the family bonus. So the family bonus can get up to 20% attack. That will also, this passive will, the ether talent, sorry, will give her an extra 20% attack at the beginning of the battle for 6 turns. So seriously high attack stats if you do go for the second limit breaks and emblems. Now, let us move over to the Untold Tales summon and have a look at our first ever costume for the Untold Tales heroes. Now, normally they do this alongside the event being a reduced cost and increased... there's a lot of offers. Wow. Okay, so usually they do this alongside the event being a decreased cost. But as you can see here, we haven't got the decreased cost yet, but they have gone ahead and released the costumes already. So I'm not sure when we'll see that and when we'll be able to start farming these Untold Tales stages. I'm a little bit behind in terms of the Untold Tales anyway, so it doesn't really impact me that much. So in terms of whether they should have done this or not, now that is the big question. You know, is it too soon to be releasing these costumes for the Untold Tales heroes? Now, in the case of most portals, I would have said, yeah, absolutely, it's far too soon. But what you can notice here is that the power creep steadily been increasing to a point where they don't really have a choice about this. So what do I mean by that? Look at this guy's team power, 1323 with the max limit breaks and emblems. And then if we go over to the left-hand side and we take Medea over here, 1327. Okay, so Medea doesn't have a costume, but she is of the same team power as you're going to be getting with Phorcys with the costume bonuses. So like I said before, they just do not have any choice because the team power of the newest heroes they've released is equivalent to the team power of these heroes with the costume bonus. All right, so that is just basically where they've put themselves. It's a situation that they've created for themselves. But it's also something that we all have to suffer together with anyway. Right, let's have a look at what this guy's actually doing. Let's see if he's any different. So Phorcys, he is a dark hero as well. He is of the paladin class in this new costume. He was of the monk class, which gave him a chance to withstand status elements. Which is better? Hands down, it's the monk class. So he is of the defenders family. So just to quickly recap, they get a bonus for 1 or 2 heroes. 50 to 75% chance to give all allies 30%, 36% attack for 3 turns after the character receives special skill damage. And then the costume bonus. So, sorry, let's just do the passive first. So 50% chance to deal 80% damage to all enemies and all allies to get 21% critical chance for 2 turns. So those are the passive and the family bonus. I like the attack increase from the family bonus, and I like the fact that it is a bonus for just a single hero. So that can be increasing your attack stat by 36%. And this is a pretty decent effect as well, although he doesn't do any damage. So the 80% is just kind of an added bonus. The critical chance is quite nice though, so it increases your chance to do double damage with tiles and things like that. Now, the costume bonus for the Untold Tales family, it looks like an attack bonus of 10%, defense bonus of 10%, health bonus of 15%, and mana bonus of a measly 1%. Now, that's probably going to change. I don't understand why they've seen fit to do the mana bonus at 1%. I know they benefit from the changing tides mana speed, but that definitely doesn't have as big of an impact as a 5% increase. So the first charge, you're still going to get there just the same as you did with the old version. And the second charge, you're going to still be able to get there the exact same as you did with the old version. So not a huge impact there. It's basically just a stat boost for these heroes. Now let's move over to the special skill. So we'll look at his old one first. So his first Tide, he summons a merman minion for the caster and nearby with 27% HP and 26% attack inherited from the caster. So the new costume version summons a merman minion with 25% HP and 25% attack inherited from the caster. So the minion is a little bit less beefy. It used to be 27 and 26. It's now 25 and 25. Now the minion adds 4% mana to its owner at the end of each turn. And the caster gets taunt that prevents the enemies from using special skills on the caster's allies for 3 turns. Now, that is a little bit worse because the old one, the minion adds 5% mana and the caster gets taunt for 3 turns. So again, I mean, the first part of his special skills actually worse than the old one. That doesn't make any sense, but it is. And another thing I want to point out while we're on this is that he used to have the taunt ether talent. So at the start of the battle, he gets auto taunt for the first 3 turns. He's now got the revive talent, which if he's defeated during the first 4 turns, he gets resurrected with 1% health. That's a much worse ether talent as well. So far, I would say the costume version is worse by quite a big margin than the original. Now let's have a quick look at the second Tide. Let's see if he can redeem himself. So he summons a merman minion. The merman minions then got 30% HP and 35% attack. On the second Tide of this one, it would be 27% HP and 26 attack. So it's a very, very minimal increase, but the costume version is slightly better. The minion adds 5% mana to the owner at the end of each turn, and he gets taunt for 3 turns, and he gets a stack of plus 20% attack for his minions, or for the minions. On this version, we have, again, 5% mana, so exactly the same. Taunt now lasts for 4 turns. Okay, that is different. Okay, so he gets an extra turn on the taunt in the costume version for the second charge. I mean, that doesn't make too much of a difference, to be fair, because it takes you basically 2 special skill fires to get to that second charge. So by the time you get there, the battle's either won or lost already. And then the attack stack for the minions is 25% rather than 20%, which it was for the old special. It's literally the same hero, just the ether talent is worse, the class is worse, and, you know, the first part of his special is worse. The second part is better, but honestly, that's really not going to make too much of a difference for PvP content. It's mainly going to be for PvE content, map stages, towers, etc., etc. So I don't think it's really going to make that much of a difference. The only thing they've really done is just boosted his stats. So that's enough said about Phorcys. He is still a good hero. He's a great taunt hero because of the fact that he's able to do it so quickly. And the minions increasing the mana generation is also a massive added bonus. So still a good hero, but like I said before, they just had to do this. They didn't have a choice, basically, is what I'm saying. And then let's just have a quick look at the Underwild heroes. So we have got a costume for Zenda. We've got a costume for Mac. We've got a new costume for Morris. I'm not going to go over Mac and Morris because, to be fair, I really don't like them and I don't think that they're great heroes anyway. I can't see that the costume bonuses are going to make them any better. But Zenda, on the other hand, I do like. So I think Zenda's a pretty decent hero. We can see the team power 1323, so almost equivalent with the costume bonus to the heroes that we just looked at from the Untold Tales portal. So, you know, stat-wise, she's going to be pretty good, or he's going to be pretty good, or it's going to be pretty good. Just a weird-looking hero. So in terms of the class, we've got Monk class now, used to be a fighter, so pretty much a downgrade in terms of the class. Family bonus, we don't need to go over that. Costume bonus, you can see these increases: 17 on attack and defense, 26% on health, and 5% mana. So that's really what you want, especially for a hero like this that's at average speed. That 5% mana boost really does give you that little bit extra. And then we've got the dual passives. which are awesome. So this is a special skill damage reduction, which is the one that originally Zenda had. So received damage from special skills is reduced by 20%. It's a very good passive, and it works basically for the whole of the battle. So it's really, really nice to know that you're going to get 20% damage reduction. Pardon me. Sorry, guys. And then the increased damage against boosted health. Now, after this character casts this special skill, all allies deal 70% increased normal attack and special skill damage against targets with boosted health for 4 turns. That can be a really, really useful skill, increasing the damage of all of your allies by 70% against boosted health. It doesn't come into effect all the time, but it is pretty useful. Now, insofar as the ether talent, I'm not a fan of the decrease or change from attack up to counter attack. Attack up is definitely a better ether talent. And now let's move over to the special skill. So the special skill is called Underworld Flame. It was Underworld Blaze, still running at average speed. So Zenda now deals 230% damage to all enemies. All enemies receive 600 burn damage over 4 turns. The caster absorbs 20% of dealt burn damage as health. And the caster steals generated mana of all enemies over 4 turns, starting low and increasing every turn, until on the last turn all the generated mana is stolen. So we know how frustrating this effect can be, and we know how survivable Zenda is with the heal over time based on the burn damage, which is cool. But there isn't any real change here. So it's a slight increase in the burn damage from 524 up to 600. And bear in mind, we are looking at this with the limit breaks and emblems, so it's a bit higher. The turn count is the same, so it's for 4 turns. 15% absorption versus 20% health absorption, so definitely a good increase on that one as well. And then the generated mana is still over 4 turns, so exactly the same as previous, except that in this case, compared to what we looked at a moment ago with Phorcys, the costume for Zenda is definitely better. So yeah, in summary, Zenda is still a pretty damn decent hero. I do like the combination of the passives and things like that. I just kind of wish they'd left the ether talents and the class alone, but I know that they have to change it. So if you do pull this version, I would definitely use the costume. She's just that much better in the costume version. And that is basically it for all of the new heroes that we have. And again, more pop-ups are coming up. So yeah, I haven't even started the Monster Island. Obviously, I was going to say I haven't started it, but I can see it's still approaching. But I really wanted to have the sound on for this because the music in the Monster Island event is just freaking funny, man. It's second only. I don't know if you guys pay any attention to the music in the events, but to me, the Monster Island theme tune is second only to the Lunar New Year. The Lunar New Year music was fantastic. And I actually complained to support because my music wasn't working. And I know most people don't ever put it on when they play, but I do. I kind of like it. Anyways, that's enough said. Please do share and comment and let me know what you guys think of these new heroes, especially with the heroes in the Monster Island portal for Thura and Dubhan. I want to know you guys' thoughts on these heroes. Also, obviously, let me know if you think it's too soon in the release for the Underwild, the Untold Tales costumes. And please do drop us a like, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, share it with your mother, guys, and I'll see you all again in the next video. Bye for now.